I think so. Maybe slightly members, maybe I'll listen on the feed.
On the website. Yeah, you recorded it or it's on YouTube? Their parents. It's great. And then there is like a static link to it. So, you know, well, you know, I have to see, but you have to teach this. No, not trial math. Oh, you know, so starting about arguments and you have nothing more than that. Yeah, okay. I brought this book with me and I've yet to get it. Okay, I haven't done my book decision yet, so today. You know what you're doing. For that, yeah. That's, I've used the same one. We use this one, right? I like the workbook. That's the only one I know. Another workbook. Well, they don't go. We're not gonna have and then I'll like welcome everyone, and then we'll all work in order like after that. So don't worry about like, we'll do like, yeah, all right, we'll just walk in. And she has all the stuff printed out. Yeah, and then I gave her like that I had like printed out. First of all, like. Nothing. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna bring the Sherry in and put her on the bench, like while everyone just like what we're like here doing. And then I'll probably work after that. So we'll do like the all rise, it's, you know, y'all can make appearances and all that, like not as soon as you know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, so. Yes, great. Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna grab that here. We should have seen students. At least on the business. Yeah, it is. It's too much. Wasn't there? They hear us. It's on.
I will check.
Yeah.
It's on, yeah, as long as you see those lights blinking.
That's for the live stream.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Oh, so they can like hear everything we're saying. That happens, I think.
Mike.
Oh.
But like I said, the mic's still live, by the
I'm
way.
very sorry for. They're like go in recess and have to look up sensitive things.
You see the mute button right there? Just hold that. When it's red, it's not live, but the last time we did this, we forgot to turn it on. So it's red. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. This is the 2025 final round of Trial Advocacy Board's internal competition. The trial today is a culmination of a lot of hard work on behalf of the Trial Advocacy Board, but in particular of our newest Trial Advocacy Board members, our 2Ls. So last spring, we did the Trial Advocacy Board tryouts, and approximately 70 students tried out to make the Trial Advocacy Board. And of all the students that tried out, we selected 16, and those are our new Trial Advocacy Board members. Over the course of this semester, those 16 new members started in August, learning about trial advocacy for the very first time. And then this trial today is a showcase of everything that they've learned over the past, maybe quick, maybe not so quick, 13 or 14 weeks. So today, our trial is about gambling fraud. So the plaintiff, Premier Casino, has alleged that the defendant, Mr. AJ Bolito, cheated to win the Premier Casino 2024 belt competition. And he won $15 million. The plaintiff today is represented by Reeves Robinson, Molly Frey, and the defendant, Mr. AJ Bolito, is represented by Madison Keys and Annie Salas. Before we get started, and we will get started in just a minute because we're on a tight time schedule today, I did want to take a second to thank all of you for being here today. I hope that after watching the trial, you're all motivated to come try out for trial advocacy next year. We would love to have you. I wanted to thank our jurors and scoring judges, who are a fantastic mix of Charleston law professors and alumni and local practicing attorneys. And also thank you to the Honorable Judge Molly Cherry. Judge Cherry is a federal magistrate court judge, and she is kind enough to this year volunteer for the third time in a row to preside over our final round. So Judge Cherry, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your support of the Trial Advocacy Board. If you're here for the professionalism credit, please make sure that you sign that paper that's going around before you leave. If you're here as one of my legal writing students, make sure there's a separate paper that you sign for that. And we would just ask that during the trial, if you would please mute your phones and try not to go in and out of the doors unless you absolutely have to. It's pretty loud and we don't want to distract the students with what's going on up here. So we will do quick breaks during the mid-trial and at closing argument, but otherwise we would ask that you just stay in your seats. So with that, I was going to turn it over to Judge Cherry, but I think we need to give her just a minute. I think she needs a sip of water. But as soon as she comes back in, I'll call the court to order. I'll just say, all rise when she walks in. We'll rise, and then I'll hand it over to her, and she will preside over the trial. So thank you all again for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you at the spring tryouts.
You got it.
All right. The court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Cherry presiding.
Thank you, counselors. My apologies, I've got a tickle in my throat, and so if I need to step out and take another break to get some more water, I'll let you know. But we are here today in the case Premier Casino versus AJ Bolito, and I will hear from the plaintiff there in housekeeping matters.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Reeves Robinson on behalf of the plaintiff, Premier Casino. We do have one housekeeping matter. However, we do have a trial notebook and a notice of appearance with our names written on it if you'd like a copy.
Please.
May I approach?
You may. Thank you.
Can Reese Robinson on behalf of the plaintiff, I'll let my co-counsel introduce herself.
Molly Fryer, the plaintiff.
And we're ready to make appearances and discuss housekeeping matters whenever your honor is ready.
You may proceed.
We did have one housekeeping matter during pre-trial conferences. The parties met and conferred and agreed to stipulate to the admissibility of exhibits 1 through 4.
Okay, they are admitted.
Thank you. And with that, your honor, plaintiff is ready to proceed with opening statements.
Okay, and is the defense any further housekeeping matters?
Yes, Your Honor. Madison Keys for the defense, and I'll allow my co-counsel to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, your honor. And Amy Sagas for the defense.
We do also have a notice of appearance if Your Honor would like a copy.
Certainly.
May I approach?
You may.
Your Honor, permission to give the notice of appearance to the scoring judges as well?
You may.
Thank you.
Ms. Keys, I just have to ask, if anybody sees you about your name and asks if you're a tennis player?
If only, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor. Defense is ready to proceed with opening statements.
All right, then we'll proceed. I'll hear from the plaintiff.
May it please the court. Your honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. This wasn't just a poker game. This was a con disguised as a card game. It's nearing midnight in the final rounds of the 2024 Belt Poker Tournament, and 2 players remain. Jamie Rosenblatt and the defendant, AJ Lido. And Jamie Rosenblatt, she cannot believe her luck. Since the break, 4 hours earlier, she's consistently been on top. She's only 3 hands away from winning $15 million. She's so close to the win, she can almost reach out and grab it. She can smell it. She can taste it. And this win would be the biggest win of her entire career. A win that wouldn't just change her life, but the lives of her children as well. So with hope, the size of Texas, she overturns the 2 cards she was just dealt in the third to last hand. And what do you know? They're pocket kings, the second best hand. And again, she cannot believe her luck. Then, when her opponent, AJ Lido, moves all in, there's a sudden shift in the air. And AJ Lido trumps Rosenblatt's kings with pocket aces, the best hand in poker. And not only that, is he does it twice. The final hand is dealt, and Jamie Rosenblatt, she flops a full house, usually unbeatable. But the defendant, he flops an even better full house. And in a matter of minutes, $15 million just slipped through the fingers of Jamie Rosenblatt, and she's mad about it. She's angry. She's outraged. But she looks over and sees, and what the entire studio audience can see is that AJ Lido has no reaction at all. He just won $15 million. He's stoic, uninterested, and completely and utterly calm. This wasn't just a poker game. It was a con disguised as a card game. Members of the jury, I'm Reese Robinson, and together with my co-counsel, Molly Fryer, we've had the pleasure of representing Premier Casino. What you might not know about Premier is that this operation was built from the ground up. Lee Bowles, in her capacity as gaming director, and through pure grit and determination, transformed Premier from a modest casino into one of the most respected and renowned establishments in the industry. A portion of that success was due to her creation of the Belt Tournament in 2018. An event that quickly earned a reputation not only for its large prize pots, but for its prestige. And the Belt isn't just a game to Premier. It's the casino's lifeblood. Since its creation, the Belt has nearly tripled Premier's popularity, and on average, generates nearly $60 million in revenue each year for Premier. And we're here today as the defendant, AJ Bolito. He placed Lee Bowles' hard work and Premier's reputation at risk. Premier has sued AJ Bolito for gambling fraud. Your role as the jury today is to determine whether or not he defrauded Premier during the Belt 2024. To do so, the law requires us to prove, more likely than not, the defendant committed a fraudulent act in connection to a gambling game, which resulted in harm to Premier. Now, a fraudulent act includes many things, but it certainly includes the manipulation of the operation of a gambling game with the intent to cheat. A gambling game can be a poker game, like the Belt. And a casino suffers harm when it either loses money or is required to pay out a wager it otherwise wouldn't pay out if it weren't for the fraud. Members of the jury, the burden is on us to prove this today, and we will meet this burden with 3 key pieces of evidence: the deal, the game, and the aftermath. First, you'll hear about the deal. You'll hear testimony from the defendant himself that he struck a deal with Lee Bowles to have his favorite poker dealer, Robert Little, serve as the dealer for the Belt. You'll hear that he struck a deal to have Robert Little provide setup for the game. And then you will hear about the game. You'll hear that the defendant's favorite dealer provided a marked deck for the first half of the game. You'll hear that while the marked deck was in use, the defendant had a very odd style of gameplay where he focused on targeting players to his immediate right and left. And he was winning this way. That was until the deck was switched for a non-marked deck, and the defendant stopped playing this way altogether and ultimately began to lose. That is, up until the final 3 hands, where you'll hear that the probability of those cards being dealt was less than 1 in 222 trillion. And then you'll hear about the aftermath. You'll hear that when the defendant ultimately won the Belt in $15 million, he didn't react because he expected to win. You'll hear that he tipped $800,000 to his favorite dealer, an exorbitant amount even for a $15 million prize. Now, members of the jury, the defendant will attempt to persuade you that it was just a lucky day. But remember, this was a con disguised as a card game. So, at the conclusion of this trial, after you hear all the evidence, we'd ask the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to find the defendant liable for gambling fraud. Thank you.
May it please the court. Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. Mastery and experience built his success. A crowd has gathered at Premier Casino for the world's most exclusive poker tournament, The Belt. Players are sitting in a private poker room behind one-way glass, cut off from the chorus of reactions of the live audience. Among the players is the world's #1 ranked poker player, AJ Bolito. A man who began his poker career when he was only 19 years old. The culmination of his 35 years of hard work comes down to this. Because mastery and experience built his success. The final round of Belt 2024 has arrived. The audience watches in anticipation as the final 2 players face off. AJ Bolito and Jamie Rosenblatt. Mr. Bolito is focused. He holds in his hands 2 cards. He knows from experience how 2 cards can change everything. He looks at the cards on the table and sees he's a hand that could win it all for him. He looks to Rosenblatt and uses his mastered ability to read people. He sees Rosenblatt's veins get thicker and swallowing more. He knows from experience that Rosenblatt is acting with emotion and not logic. He gives Rosenblatt the chance to make a mistake, baiting him to push all his money in. And he does. The players show their hands, revealing AJ's winning hand. Mr. Bolito pauses in silence to savor the moment before tipping the dealer. He is the winner of $15 million, a representation of the mastery and experience that built his success. Members of the jury, my name is Madison Keys, and my co-counsel, Annie E. Salas, and I represent the defendant, Mr. AJ Bolito. Mr. Bolito is a man who at 19 years old dropped out of college to pursue a dream of becoming a professional poker player. A man who at 21 became the youngest to win the World Series Poker Championship. He has dedicated his life to the game of poker. He has spent 35 years mastering the game. Mr. Bolito is here today because the plaintiff, Premier Casino, is alleging he committed gambling fraud, which requires them to prove 3 things: that the defendant committed a fraudulent act in connection with a gambling game, resulting in harm to the plaintiff. Now, let's turn our attention to the first part, since that's the most crucial part of this case. It's important to note that as the defense, we do not carry the burden of proof today. We're not required to present evidence, call witnesses, or ask a single question, because that responsibility lies entirely with the plaintiff. The plaintiff must prove to you today that it is more likely true than not that Mr. Bolito committed a fraudulent act. Meaning they must prove to you with actual evidence that Mr. Bolito had outside knowledge unavailable to other players, or manipulated the game to cheat, or offered something of value to influence the outcome. Today, the plaintiff will fail to meet their burden because the evidence will show no fraudulent act by Mr. Bolito at any point. During today's trial, you'll hear a great deal of testimony about Belt 2024. But listen carefully, because despite all that testimony, you will not hear actual evidence or proof of Mr. Bolito committing a fraudulent act at any point. During today's trial, we will show the plaintiff could not meet their burden because Mr. Bolito didn't know, didn't receive, and didn't bribe. Now let's take those one at a time. First, Mr. Bolito didn't know marked cards were being used. You will hear from Mr. Bolito himself today. It's important to note that Mr. Bolito is not required to take a stand in his defense today. He has the legal right to remain silent. However, he wants to tell you what truly happened at Bell 2024 and how he ultimately won. He will tell you how he didn't know marked cards were being used. He will tell you how he only learned a year later that marked cards were being used in the first half of the game. He will testify that marked cards should never be used in the game of poker. Mr. Bolito will tell you he wanted Robert Little to be the dealer because he expected him to keep the game fair. Even the plaintiff's gaming director, Lee Bowles, will acknowledge she was comfortable with Little as dealer and that he had previous experience dealing belt competitions. And the evidence will show that Mr. Bolito won using non-marked Premier Casino cards. Second, Mr. Bolito didn't receive signals. The evidence will show that, yes, Mr. Bolito was indeed wearing eyeglasses for the first time during the game. But as Mr. Bolito will testify today, he was only wearing those eyeglasses because he lost his contact lenses earlier that afternoon. The evidence will show Mr. Bolito was using those glasses for his eyesight, not to receive any signals. Expert Jess Pascarilla will testify today that Mr. Bolito's conduct meant none of the hallmarks of cheating with technology. She will testify there is no evidence Mr. Bolito used any technology to cheat. And third, Mr. Bolito didn't bribe anyone. When Mr. Bolito won Bell 2024, he tipped Robert Little $800,000. We make no attempt to conceal this fact. Although the amount may appear substantial, as you will learn during today's trial, it is customary to provide a tip following a poker victory. The plaintiff's own witness will acknowledge a 5% tip is typical, and the $800,000 in question is merely 5.3% of the $15 million earned by Mr. Bolito during the bell. The plaintiff will want you to believe today that a large tip means AJ Bolito and Robert Little are partnering. You will hear during today, Mr. Bolito has no personal relationship with Robert Little. No phone number, no private conversations, no contact information at all. Instead, you'll hear from second place winner, Jamie Rosenblatt, who does have a personal relationship with Robert Little. The evidence will show that if any personal relationship existed at that table, it was not between AJ Bolito and Robert Little, but between Robert Little and the second place winner. Members of the jury, the plaintiff will fail to meet their burden today. Mr. Bolito is a man who spent his life dedicated to perfecting his craft, playing poker. He is a master at reading people, not cards. And his seasoned experience of 35 years led him to obtain the biggest win of his career at Bell 2024, because mastery and experience built his success. At the end of today's trial, we will ask you to find Mr. AJ Bolito not liable for gambling fraud. Thank you.
Plaintiff, you can call your first witness.
Plaintiff calls Jamie Rosenblatt to the stand.
Ms. Rosenblatt, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You may be seated.
Good afternoon. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Rosenblatt.
What is your profession?
Professional poker player.
How long have you been playing poker for?
I've been playing professional poker for 35 years now.
And what is your current poker ranking?
I'm ranked top 10 in the Global Poker Index.
Have you ever played in the Bell tournament before?
I have in 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025.
How did you do in 2022 and 2023?
8th place both years.
How did you do in 2024?
I was in 2nd place in 2024.
And how did you do in 2025?
I ultimately won belt 2025.
I want to talk about what happened prior to the start of the belt 2024 tournament. Were you aware of any special arrangements between Lee Bowles, the tournament director, and defendant AJ Bolito?
Initially, in my deposition for this case about a couple months later, that Bolito set some ground rules for belt 2024. When I found that out, I was infuriated.
What ground rules did Bolito set?
Well, Bolito chose the dealer and he chose the buying amount.
Who was in charge of providing the setup?
The same dealer that the defendant Bolito chose for belt 2024.
Was there anything unusual about this setup?
Yeah, they weren't using Premier Casino branded cards.
And how did you feel when you realized they weren't using Premier branded cards?
Honestly, I was shocked.
Why were you shocked?
Because I've never seen a casino not use their own branded cards in a poker game.
Can you please inform the jury why casinos use their own branded cards?
To prevent cheating and to promote their business.
And if I were to show you a card from the Belt 2024 tournament, would you recognize it?
Yes, I would.
I would like to direct the court and opposing counsel's attention to what has been pre-admitted as Exhibit 4. Your Honor, would you like to inspect the card?
No.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Now, I just handed you what has been pre-admitted as Exhibit 4. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is a card from the deck of Belt 2024 prior to the deck switch.
And is it in the same or substantially the same condition?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, may the witness step down to aid in her testimony? She may. Now, looking at the back of the card, can you please tell the jury what the exact suit and value of this card is?
Yes, by looking at the back of the card, it's Ace of Clubs.
And in your deposition, how long did you examine the card just like that for?
2 minutes.
Did you notice anything in those 2 minutes?
First, I didn't notice a thing. I squinted, I moved the card around. I didn't notice anything until the attorney pointed out that there was a marking on this card.
What markings?
Well, the marking that showed the suit and value on what's in front of the card, meaning that anyone who is looking for the marking would be able to find it.
And can you please point to where that marking is? Thank you, Mr. Rodenbach. Could you proceed again? How did you feel when you realized these cards were marked?
I couldn't believe it. I was appalled.
Why were you appalled?
Marked cards should never be used in a poker game, especially in the world's most exclusive poker game. I was floored.
At the start of the tournament, were you aware these cards were marked?
Obviously not. I came in 2nd place, not first. It's a huge black eye against Premier Casino in the belt tournament.
What did you continue playing with this marked deck?
We played with it for about half of the game, and then it was a notice damaged card in the deck, and then that's when we stopped playing.
Let's talk about that damaged card a little bit more. Did you notice the damage?
Not initially. I looked over and I saw that there was damage in the corner of the card.
And how did defendant AJ Bolito react to the damaged card?
The defendant said it's fine and we should keep playing with the cards.
What happened next?
Then the gaming director, Lee Bowles, came in the room and inspected the card.
What did Lee Bowles determine?
Lee Bowles determined that the card was damaged.
Did you continue to play with this damaged deck?
No, immediately Lee Bowles came in the room and he confiscated the deck and switched them out for Premier Casino branded cards.
Let's talk about what happened before that marked deck was switched for Premier branded cards. How was Bolito act?
He was playing very strange. He kept fidgeting his glasses and after the switch of the deck, he continued to play very strange.
Well, let's start from the beginning. How was Bolito playing from the start?
He was only playing the players to his immediate right and left.
What do you mean he was only playing against players to his immediate right and left?
He was only entering the pot to the players to his immediate right and left.
Can you please inform the jury what pot in poker is?
Yeah, a pot is the amount of chips wagered by all of the players.
And don't you play against the players to your right and left?
In my 35 years of experience, I've never seen a professional poker player only playing players to the immediate right and left.
Well, was his strategy effective?
Very. He was destroying the other players.
What do you mean by destroying the other players?
Bolito was making bets so good, it was like he was mind reading.
Well, let's talk about what happened after the marked deck was switched for Premier branded cards. How was Polito playing then?
His whole style of play changed.
How did it change?
He started playing fewer hands and he began losing.
Well, who took control of the table then?
I did, and I eliminated 4 players.
Okay, so it's you and AJ Polito left. How did the game end?
Well, I was dealt 3 unbelievable unlucky cards back to back.
Okay, let's take that round by round. What happened that first round?
I was dealt pocket kings, which is the second best hand in poker, but Bolito was dealt pocket aces, which is the best hand in poker.
And what happened that second round?
The same exact thing. I was dealt pocket kings, and what do you know it? Bolito's dealt pocket aces.
And what happened that third and final round?
I flopped on a full house, which is typically unbeatable.
Now, what exactly does that mean?
Well, I lost on a regular full house to Bolito's better full house.
And can you inform the jury what a full house is?
Yeah, so a full house is the 4th best hand in poker. It's when a player has 3 of the same numbers and 2 of the same numbers. So at the belt, I had 3 5s and 2 jacks, but Bolito had 3 jacks and 2 5s, the better full house.
And what are the odds of a hand like that happening?
Based on my 35 years of experience, I'd say it's microscopically unlikely.
And after that microscopically unlikely hand occurred, how did you react?
I couldn't believe it. I was frustrated. I couldn't believe that I got dealt such unlucky hands.
And how did the defendant react to winning the entire tournament?
He didn't do a thing. He just sat there, emotionless and silent.
Did he do anything?
All he did was tip the dealer
How much did he tip the dealer?
$50,000.
Have you seen a tip like that before?
Never seen a tip that big, ever.
Now, earlier you testified that the defendant picked the dealer. I want to talk more about Robert Little. Have you seen him deal before?
Yeah, and he's actually capable of trick dealing.
Can you please explain to the jury what trick dealing is?
Well, trick dealing is like a magic trick. It's when the dealer can deal whichever cards he wants to specific players by the sleight of hand. It's a form of cheating.
And how many times have you seen Robert Little trick deal?
5 or 6 times.
Is he any good at it?
So good, you don't even know he's doing it.
You also testified earlier that the defendant, AJ Bolito, was fidgeting with his glasses. I want to talk more about that. Have you ever seen the defendant wear glasses before?
No, never.
Did he wear them the entire belt tournament?
He wore them for most of the game, but during the break, he took them off.
And was he doing anything else unusual with them?
During the hands, he would just fidget and adjust his glasses.
Did the defendant ever tell you why he was wearing glasses?
He smiled at me and said they give him X-ray vision.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Any false?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenblatt, let's discuss the deposition you gave for this case. You recall giving a deposition, correct?
I do, yes.
During that deposition, you were under oath.
I was, yes.
You were asked questions about Belt 2024.
Yes.
You were asked questions about why you thought Mr. Bolito cheated in Belt 2024.
Yes, I was.
You were given the opportunity to provide any evidence available to you that Mr. Bolito did cheat in Belt 2024.
Yes.
And you would agree that other than that deposition, you have no further evidence Mr. Bolito cheated.
Now, I found out during my deposition about the evidence of what took place at Belt 2024. Yes.
And similarly today, you're under oath.
I am, yes.
Plaintiff's counsel just asked you questions about Belt 2024.
Yes, they did.
You were given the opportunity to share why you think you lost Belt 2024.
Yes, I was.
You were given the opportunity to share why you thought Mr. Bolito won Belt 2024.
Yes.
And you answered each question fully.
I did, yes.
And you answered each question truthfully.
Yes.
You would agree with me, you never testified you heard Mr. Bolito and Robert Little conspire to cheat in Belt 2024.
No, not necessarily, but I know that Robert Little provided the marked deck for Belt 2024 and Bolito ultimately won Belt 2024, so.
That's a no, Ms. Rosenblatt.
No,
You never saw Mr. Bolito staring intently at opponent's cards.
no,
You never testified that you saw Mr. Bolito using an earpiece in Bell 2024.
I didn't know.
You never testified that Mr. Bolito was communicating with a member of the audience in Bell 2024.
No, never said that.
And you never testified you saw Mr. Bolito using a phone in Bell 2024.
No,
Ms. Rosenblatt, let's not talk about your history with the Bell competition. You've been invited to compete in the Bell before, correct?
yes.
But prior to this year, you had never won the Bell before.
Prior to, yeah, no, I haven't. I came in second place in 2024 and I ultimately won in 2025. Yes.
Right. In 2022, you placed 8th out of
was-
10 players.
Yes, I was in 8th place.
In 2023, you again placed 8th.
Yes,
And as you just said, you moved up to second place in 2024.
I surely did. Yes.
Let's talk more about the belt in 2024. There were rules for that tournament.
There was, yes.
You were familiar with those rules.
I was, yes.
Those rules stated electronic devices were not allowed
They did, yes.
for the duration of the tournament.
Yes,
Now, there was a break at 9 p.m.
yes.
At 9 p.m., you FaceTimed your kids.
I did step outside to FaceTime my kids. I'm a mother, so yes, I wanted to put them to bed.
Yeah, using an electronic device.
Yes, but I stepped outside.
But the break includes the duration of the tournament, correct?
Yes, but it was a break, yeah.
Despite knowing full well that that wasn't allowed.
Yes,
Let's talk more about the dealer for the belt 2024, Robert Little. You're good friends with Robert Little.
I do know Robert Little, yes.
You play golf together.
Objection relevance.
Your Honor, this is relevant because it goes towards this witness's bias.
Overruled.
You play golf together
Yes, we did play golf together.
every month.
Yes.
You even lived together in Vegas at the start of your careers.
Yes, I went on to be a professional poker player and he went on to be a dealer, yes.
Now, you received the belt rules in early April 2020, correct?
I did, yes.
That was a few weeks before the belt tournament on April 19th, 2024.
Yes,
You knew after reading those rules that second place would win $5 million.
yes,
You also knew that Robert Little was the intended dealer for belt 2024.
yes. The dealer that Bolito chose for belt 2024.
That's a yes.
Yes,
Meaning you knew a few weeks ahead of time that your good friend Robert Little would serve as dealer.
yes, but I didn't choose Robert Little to be the dealer. Bolito did.
You also knew after reading Sorry, may I just step back to council table for 1 minute? Apologies. Now, you believe that Mr. Bolito cheated in belt 2024, correct?
Yes, I do.
But you didn't think that during the tournament.
No, I didn't, but I'm on the stand for a gambling fraud case, so now I do believe that.
Because during the game, you couldn't believe Robert Little was dealing you losing cards.
No,
You couldn't believe you lost the biggest tournament.
I couldn't believe it. No, I couldn't believe that I was dealt such unlucky hands. I couldn't believe it.
So much so that when you lost, you stood up, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And said to Robert Little, Robert, you gotta be kidding me.
Yes, because I couldn't believe I was dealt such unlucky hands.
Earlier, you testified that marked cards were used in the first half of the game, correct?
They were, yes.
Ms. Rosenblatt, while those marked cards were in play, you were in second place.
Yes, but Bolito was in first.
After those marked cards were taken away, everyone played with Premier Casino cards.
Yes, that's correct.
After those marked cards were taken away, Mr. Bolito still won belt 2024.
Yes, he did, but my losses were short in those last rounds while Premier Casino debt was in use when Robert Little dealt me those cards.
So that's a yes.
Yes,
So you'd agree with me, Mr. Bolito won without marked cards.
He did win without marked cards, yes, I agree. But we both had two of the best hands in poker. But Belito, 3 times back to back, the best hand in poker.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Can you redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, the witness may step down. Recall your next witness.
Your Honor, plaintiff calls Lee Bowles to the stand.
Ms. Bowles, if you would raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may be seated.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Lee Bowles.
Where do you work?
I work at Premier Casino. I've worked there since 2018, so for the last 7 years, I would say.
What's your role at Premier?
I'm Premier Casino's gaming director.
What does being Premier's gaming director involve?
Essentially, I just oversee all the casino games, and I also manage the belt tournament.
What is the belt tournament?
It's the world's most prestigious poker tournament, and we host it every year.
Have you managed tournaments like the belt before?
I have. I've managed several large events like the belt over my 32-year career.
What else have you done throughout your career in the industry?
Well, after graduating from Virginia Tech with a degree in business, I somehow managed to find myself in the casino industry. Since then, I have been a casino host, I've been a poker dealer, a poker room manager, and I've even been a TV commentator for televised poker tournaments.
Have you played poker yourself?
I have. I played in 102 poker tournaments myself.
You stated earlier that you oversee all of Premier's casino games. What does that involve?
Mainly just overseeing all the casino games that we offer, making sure that everything goes smoothly and fairly, and ensuring that there's no hiccups and there's no cheating.
Have you caught cheating in the past?
I have. I've caught 14 players in my career.
And when did you learn how to detect cheating?
Mainly just from my 32 years in experience, but I've also attended several 2-day seminars that primarily focus on cheating detection and prevention.
And you reviewed the belt 2024 for cheating?
Unfortunately, I did. Premier Casino's reputation is completely at risk. It could lose tens of millions of dollars.
What evidence did you rely on in your review of the belt 2024?
I relied on my own personal observations from the tournament, my thorough investigation, and the defendant's phone records.
Did you use methods others in your field would rely on in your review of the belt?
Yes, I did.
And did you draw your conclusions to a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, at this time, plaintiff tenders Lee Bowles as an expert in casino gaming operations and management.
Any objection from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay, she is deemed an expert.
Now, Ms. Bowles, that we've established more about you and your experience, I want to hear about your conclusions. What were your conclusions from the belt 2024?
I concluded that it was likely that the defendant was reading marked cards during the tournament. I concluded that it was likely he was receiving communications throughout the tournament, and also that he had bribed the dealer, Robert Little.
Let's break that down one by one. Starting with your first conclusion. What evidence did you rely on to draw your conclusion that the defendant possibly read marked cards?
The marked deck that Robert Little had provided, and also the complete switch up of the defendant's style of gameplay after the break in the tournament.
Let's break that down a little bit more. Starting with, who is Robert Little?
Robert Little is the dealer that the defendant had negotiated for us to have deal the Premier Casino.
When did he negotiate to have Robert Little deal?
A few months prior to the tournament, I had emailed the defendant asking him to take part in this tournament, and he had responded with some conditions that he wanted to have met before agreeing to play.
If I were to show you these emails, would you recognize them?
I would.
Your Honor, at this time, I direct the court and opposing counsel's attention to what has been pre-admitted into evidence at Exhibit 1. Your Honor, to find a copy of this on page 10 of your trial notebook, but would you like an extra copy?
No, thank you.
May I approach the witness?
You may. Counselor, which exhibit number did you say?
Exhibit 1, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Bowles, I've just handed you what has been pre-admitted into evidence as Exhibit 1. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is the email chain between the defendant and I a few months prior to the tournament.
And is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this a fair and accurate copy of those emails?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I've published Exhibit 1 to the jury.
Ma'am.
Now, Ms. Bowles, can you please explain to the jury what those conditions were that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, so as you can see, the defendant requested that there be no cameras, that Robert Little deal and provide the setup and chips, that headphones be allowed, and he wanted to double the entry fee to $2 million apiece.
Were all of these conditions met?
I would say most, but not all of them.
Let's start with the ones that were. Which conditions were met?
Well, I agreed to having no cameras for recording purposes, but I couldn't eliminate cameras altogether as we had a live audience watching the private cards of each of the players. I agreed to having Robert Little deal and provide the setup, but not the chips. I agreed to double the entry fee to $2 million apiece.
And which conditions were not met?
I did not allow headphones, as headphones pose too much of a risk in poker.
Let's circle back and talk about your conclusion and the other evidence you relied on. You say that the defendant's style of gameplay switched after the break. Let's start with the first part of the game. What did you observe at this point with the defendant's style of gameplay?
His style of gameplay was odd, to say the least, but essentially he was winning and eliminated 4 players.
What do you mean when you say his style of gameplay was odd?
Well, he was only targeting players to his immediate right and left, which I had never seen him play like that before.
And how is he targeting them?
He would only enter pots against the players to his immediate right and left, unless it was his blind that he had to. But when the defendant chose to enter those pots, he played against them almost perfectly.
Let's talk about the break. You mentioned his style of gameplay switched after the break. What happened, if anything, during the break?
I had switched the deck that Robert Little had provided to a premier casino deck.
Why did you switch the deck?
It became apparent that one of the cards was damaged, and it's standard in poker that you switch the entire deck even if one card is damaged.
And can you explain to the jury, what did you do with the deck that you confiscated?
I pocketed it, and I didn't look at the cards again until the next day.
And after the break, you say the defendant's style of gameplay switched. What did you observe about his style in the second half of the game?
Well, he was no longer targeting those players to his immediate right and left, and he started losing. And that is up until his final 3 hands.
How did the final 3 hands go?
They were incredible. I have never seen hands played like that before in a poker tournament. I mean, he came back from losing all of that money and ended up winning the $15 million prize.
How did the defendant react to winning $15 million?
He didn't react at all. I mean, he just quietly, calmly tipped the dealer $50,000 chip. I mean, he didn't even smile until I took his photo with the belt trophy.
So, given all of this, how did you reach your conclusion that the defendant was reading marked cards?
Essentially, I concluded that the defendant playing the players immediately to his left and right, he needed to be close enough to them in order to read the marked cards.
Let's move on to your second conclusion. What evidence did you rely on to draw your conclusion that the defendant could have been getting communications or signals from elsewhere?
I relied on the glasses, text messages, and the behavior of his friend and protege, Jason Goss.
Let's break those down one by one. You mentioned the defendant had glasses. What does that have to do with getting communications from the audience?
During my investigation, I came to find that the defendant was frequently touching his glasses throughout the tournament, which led me to suspect that he was receiving communications to those glasses as he was playing.
You stated you also relied on the defendant's text messages. When did you access his texts?
Well, I had interviewed all of the players from the 2024 tournament, except for the defendant. He did not want to interview with me. When I interviewed all of the other players, they allowed me to go through their phone records and I didn't find any evidence of cheating. So Premier had subpoenaed for the defendant to turn over his phone records. He was reluctant to do so until a court ordered him to. And once I received those texts, I mean, I found some pretty odd messages.
And what about these messages led you to the impression that the defendant could have been getting signals from the audience?
Well, there were texts between the defendant and his friend, Jason Goss, and one of them had said, "You don't need luck, you just need to remember your glasses emoji," which led me to suspect that.
Your Honor, hearsay.
Counsel?
Your Honor, if the witness is allowed to continue to testify, she'll explain that these messages were between the defendant and his friend Jason Goss. Under 801, Rule 801, the defendant's statements are exempted or actually are not hearsay under the party opponent rule. And Jason Goss is covered under party opponent as well, under Rule 801 D2E as a co-conspirator. Here, this goes to a plaintiff's theory that there was a common plan between the defendant and Jason Goss to send signals from the audience to his classes.
Okay, well, Counselor, you've given me two, and I'm gonna give you a chance to respond, but I understand what you're making in terms of co-conspirator under 801 D2E. Go back and tell me what your other exception that you're arguing under 801. Tell me what subsection.
It was just the 801 D2E, Your Honor. But also under Rule 701, or excuse me, 703, Ms. Bowles is an expert witness and she is allowed to testify to otherwise inadmissible evidence because of her status as an expert. So therefore, even if this was considered hearsay, Ms. Bowles is still allowed to testify to it under Rule 703.
Okay. Well, all right, I'll hear from you, Ms. Ellis.
Your Honor, 2 points on that. First, there has not been enough foundation laid to establish a co-conspiracy between Jason Goss and Mr. Belito. Additionally, under Rule 703, yes, she is an expert witness and she would be able to testify to otherwise inadmissible evidence as long as that evidence is not under 403, as long as the probative value is not substantially outweighed by the prejudicial effect, and any probative value that this evidence might have, which I argue that it's low, is substantially outweighed, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Well, you may.
Under Rule 801 D2E, it's not necessary for a foundation to be laid of conspiracy. And furthermore, an advisory comment to Rule 801 states that a conspiracy need not be found in order for this exception to hearsay to apply. Furthermore, as to my opposing counsel's comment on 403, the primary pertinent message is coming from the defendant's friend, Jason Goss. Jason Goss is not on trial today. He's not a witness in this dispute. Therefore, any prejudicial value is extremely minimal here.
Well, Counselor, I disagree in that regard. The statement that you're trying to get in is the response by Mr. Goss. So it's not, as I understand it, necessarily just the defendant's statement. So I don't think statement by party opponent exception applies in this case. So what I'm looking at is the co-conspirator, and I appreciate your argument about not making a foundation, but I haven't heard enough evidence here to establish that there's some type of conspiracy. I do agree that the expert can testify. I'm going to overrule on the 403 objection, but I'm going to sustain the foundation objection. And if you can, through this witness, establish some type of conspiracy, then I will allow the text message and testimony about the text message.
Yes, Your Honor. Who is Jason Goss?
Jason Goss is the defendant's friend and protege.
And how is Jason Goss involved here? What does he have to do with the Bell 2024?
Well, he was sitting in the live audience and he was on his phone the entire time, which phones were prohibited during this tournament. So coupling that with the defendant's continuous touching of the glasses, I concluded that it was likely that he was sending messages from his phone during the tournament to the defendant.
Your Honor, has the foundation been laid?
It has. I'll overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Now, Ms. Bowles, what about the text message led you to the impression that the defendant was getting signals from the audience?
Well, there was a text from Jason Goss to the defendant that said, "You don't need luck. You just need to remember your glasses emoji." So that, coupled with everything that I had just previously said, just led me to my conclusion that my suspicion was correct.
Let's move on and talk about your final conclusion, that the defendant could have bribed the dealer. What evidence did you rely on specifically to draw this conclusion?
Well, the defendant chose the dealer. There was a private wiring of money and the unbelievable odds of the final three hands.
We discussed him choosing the dealer, but what is the private wire you just mentioned?
When we got the defendant's phone records back, we discovered that the defendant had actually wired $750,000 to the dealer, Robert Little, shortly thereafter the tournament had taken place.
And in your experience overseeing and managing games, is that kind of thing normal?
Well, on top of that initial $50,000 poker chip, he then additionally wired him $750,000, which would exceed 5% of his winnings.
And is that size of a tip normal?
No, it's standard in poker to tip your dealer maybe 1%. The largest I had seen was a $100,000 tip on a $10 million prize. Even then, that $100,000 was dispersed amongst several dealers.
And finally, you stated that you relied on the improbabilities of the final three hands. What is that improbability you mentioned?
I had calculated the final three hands of the defendant using a probability calculator that is standard in the poker industry. And I came to find that the probability of the defendant's final three hands that were played were less than 1 in 222 trillion.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles. Your Honor, no further questions at this time.
Any questions? So.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Bowles. Let's begin with your role in Premier Casino. You're Premier's gaming director, correct?
Yes, I am.
You oversee all casino games.
I do.
You even created the belt.
I did.
For the belt 2024, you sent the players a copy of the tournament rules.
Yes, that I expected all of the players to follow.
You sent each player a copy.
Yes, ma'am.
Those rules include the names of the players in the tournament.
Yes.
They also include that Robert Little will deal,
Yes.
provide the cards,
Yes.
and the dealer button.
Yes.
And you sent a copy of those rules a month in advance to each player.
I did. I wanted them to understand the ground rules before they were entering this tournament.
Let's discuss who played in the tournament. Mr. Bolito played in the tournament.
He did.
Mr. Bolito was the world's #1 ranked poker pro at that time, wasn't he?
He was, and we were excited to have him.
Mr. Bolito was an 11-time World Series champion,
Yes, we were very, very happy to have him.
but he had not yet played in the belt.
No, he had not.
So your goal for the belt 2024 was to entice Mr. Bolito to play.
Yes.
To entice Mr. Bolito to play in the belt, you sent him an email.
I did.
And in that email, you negotiated the terms of Mr. Bolito's participation.
Yes, that's true.
Mr. Bolito had some requests.
He did. We negotiated.
You agreed to some of those requests.
Some, but not all.
You agreed that Robert Little will deal.
I did. He had dealt the tournament in 2020, so I thought that he would be a fair dealer for 2024.
You agreed that Robert Little will provide the setup.
Yes, I thought that he would be fair.
So Robert Little is a professional poker dealer, correct?
Yes, he is well respected.
And like you just mentioned, Robert Little actually dealt the belt in 2020.
He did.
So you were comfortable with Robert Little as the dealer.
Absolutely. I could not have foreseen what happened in 2024.
You were comfortable based on his 30 years of experience.
Yes.
You were comfortable based on his ethical reputation in the community.
In hindsight, I regret it, but yes.
Okay, let's discuss the actual tournament. You discussed earlier that Mr. Bolito was playing against the players to his immediate right and left, correct?
It was odd.
The first two players Mr. Bolito eliminated were Powers and Scott.
Sounds about right.
That's a yes.
Yes,
It was Howard's and Scott's first year in the belt.
it was AJ Bolito's first year as well.
So you figured Mr. Bolito was just picking on new players.
Yeah, but he was targeting them in their pots, the ones immediately to his left and right.
Now, the table took a break at 9 p.m., correct?
Yes,
And at 10 p.m., play resumed.
it did after I switched the deck.
Is your memory clear on that? At 10 p.m., play resumed,
Yes,
and then you entered the playing area.
yes,
That's when you noticed a damaged card.
yes.
And you asked the table, any objections to switching to Premier deck?
I did.
The group was silent.
There were no objections.
That group included Mr. Bolito.
He could have been panicking.
So you switched the cards out
I did.
and you brought in a Premier Casino deck.
I did.
So you'd agree that Mr. Bolito won using a Premier Casino branded deck.
And the dealer that he chose.
That's a yes.
Yes.
Let's discuss your actions after the tournament. You talked about earlier that you conducted an investigation on the belt 2024, correct?
That is correct.
You asked to interview 10 players.
Yes.
You interviewed 9 players.
AJ Bolito was reluctant to meet with me.
But after those interviews, you didn't investigate anyone else except Mr. Bolito.
Yes, I had gone through all of their phone records and there was no evidence that they had any cheating.
You didn't investigate Mr. Rosenblatt,
No, I cleared him.
even though he won $5 million?
Correct.
Even though he's good friends with the dealer Robert Little?
Correct. Nobody could have foreseen what happened.
Okay, let's discuss your investigation further. You believe that Mr. Bolito's classes could have been a communication device, correct?
I've seen some fairly innocent items be turned into communication devices over my career.
But you didn't examine those classes, did you?
No, I do not.
And you'd agree that it may seem far-fetched for those classes to have actually been a communication device.
Yes, but after my thorough investigation, that's the conclusion that I came to.
Let's discuss your review of Mr. Bolito's tip to Robert Little, the dealer. You'd agree that it's customary to tip a dealer after winning a tournament, correct?
Absolutely.
And you'd agree that even in a low stakes tournament, it's customary to tip between 2 to 5% the dealer?
Sometimes, but the biggest I've seen is 1%.
And Mr. Bolito won $15 million, didn't he?
It's a big prize.
And Mr. Bolito tipped Robert Little a total of $800,000.
Yes, he did.
Ms. Bowles, you'd agree that $800,000 is 5.3% of Mr. Bolito's total winnings.
Over 5%.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any regret?
No redirect, Your Honor, but plaintiff has rested our case. We would request a 10-minute recess.
Okay, the witness may step down and we will be in recess for 10 minutes.
Reach out.
Oh, yeah.
On to the next. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Doing great.
You handled that with a lot of poise.
Sure.
Promise you did.
It was wonderful. Well, they never bring up. Yeah.
See what I go. Going well. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to meet you.
Right, yes, exactly. So businesses with their signs all are like part of their. They have businesses. So she went to the stand, they were like, so they like. But. So you must be proud. I know, it's like, it's like. No, they're not allowed to like, done some guys. That's what I just gone back. Yeah. The names are all. No, he's so. No, not that wrong. Yeah. She started sneezing right away.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Got one. It's like.
I know.
It is nice.
Yes, so.
Either.
With the windows stand up. I'm on very sensitive.
Thank you so much. I read this. No, for market. Yeah, but no, I didn't think this one. No, I'm You have heard actually. But it gets so like.
Yeah.
Not wondering.
You have to be like a line, it's like.
Yeah.
There's so many. Yeah, absolutely.
You can tell us.
You're doing. So I'm actually helping with those, but that's still. Well, I mean, that's been actually one found out. Yeah, so the
Dealer.
boys are.
Okay.
They're 14 or something. My daughter. Trying to get her over here, and then put her in make her, you know, she was.
Studying law and. Also, but whether she goes to law school, I mean, it's technically like over there. Yes, she can. Oh, love to. Love to, love to. You know, right? Yes. I think, you know, the one also well, the understanding of like. Students now, in the very law school, so hopefully they will be in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to grab your calendar? Fridays.
When they team together, it's just. They've been a team. Impressed.
And then the police department. Behind the scenes.
I'm so sorry. I will take seven. I'm so my thoughts, I got you guys the wishes. Let me just ask. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, order in the board.
We are back from recess. Do I have any motions from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then you make all your first witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense calls Jack Pasquarello to the stand.
Ms. Pastorello, if you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then you may be seated.
Ms. Pasquarello, let's begin with a little bit about you. Could you please tell the jury your names?
Yes, hi, my name is Jess Pascarella.
What do you do for a living?
I am a poker consultant and owner of Poker Security LLC.
How did you first become involved in professional poker?
Well, I started playing professional poker in 1995 and continued until 2019.
How would you describe your success as a professional player?
Well, every year I earned a six-figure income and on some better years, a seven-figure income.
What did you decide to do after you stopped playing professionally?
Well, in 2019, when I stopped playing professional poker, I opened my own poker consulting firm, Poker Security LLC.
Let's discuss Poker Security LLC. What kind of work does your firm perform?
We're hired by casinos to prevent and detect poker cheating.
How did you become involved in reviewing this case?
I was asked by the defense to review all of the evidence and to form my professional opinion based on my years in the poker the poker industry.
Let's discuss your review of the case. What information did you rely on to form your opinions?
I relied on all of the evidence provided by both the plaintiff and the defendant.
What methods did you apply?
Well, I used the hallmarks of cheating and compared them to the facts in this case.
Why did you choose those methods?
Chose those methods because they're the best way to detect poker cheating. They're the hallmarks.
Did you prepare a written report summarizing your opinion in this case?
I did.
Does that report include all of your opinions in this case?
It does.
And did you draw those opinions to a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
I did.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense tenders this witness as an expert in prevention and detection of poker cheating, as well as professional poker.
Any objection from the plaintiff?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, the witness is qualified as an expert in those fields.
Ms. Rello, let's discuss your review of the case. How many opinions did you form?
I formed three main opinions.
What was your first opinion?
First, I concluded that I could not conclude that Mr. Bolito used marked cards to cheat.
What was your second opinion?
That I found no evidence of Mr. Bolito using technology to cheat.
What was your third opinion?
I found no evidence that Mr. Bolito bribed Robert Little.
Let's take those opinions one at a time. You mentioned marked cards. How long was the marked deck in use?
The marked deck was in use for the first 4 hours of poker play, and then it was switched out for a premier casino deck.
How would you describe Mr. Bolito's behavior while the marked deck was in use?
Well, he was playing fewer hands than usual, and that stood out to me.
Why did Mr. Bolito playing fewer hands than usual stand out to you?
Because that type of play would be inconsistent with someone who knew the cards were marked.
How is that type of play inconsistent with someone who knows the other player's cards?
Well, this is a 10-player poker game, and in a 10-player poker game, it's hard to isolate specific players.
Why is it hard to isolate specific players in a 10-player game?
It's hard to isolate the specific players because at any point, any of the players can enter the pot, and that changes how the hand develops.
Let's discuss what, if anything, did you notice about the players around Mr. Bolito?
Well, I noticed that the players to Mr. Bolito's left had to enter the pot after him, so Mr. Bolito had to decide to enter the pot first.
Why did the players to Mr. Bolito's left, entering the pot after Mr. Bolito, draw your attention?
Well, it drew my attention because it meant that Mr. Bolito had to decide to enter the pot before the players on his left.
Now, let's discuss what, if anything, did you find in the evidence that would indicate Mr. Bolito knew the cards were marked during the tournament?
I found no evidence that indicated that Mr. Bolito knew the cards were marked.
Let's move on to your second opinion, your review of technology used during this tournament. What are the recognized hallmarks of using technology to cheat?
The recognized hallmarks include phones, smartwatches, or the use of earphones, any device that vibrates or has an odd or unusual shape or behavior.
In your review of the evidence, what, if anything, did you find that indicated Mr. Bolito had a device?
I found no evidence that Mr. Bolito had a device.
In your review of the evidence, what, if anything, did you find that would indicate that anyone had any devices during the tournament?
What I did find is that Mr. Rosenblatt or Miss Rosenblatt did have a device. She had her phone.
In your review of all of the evidence, did you find anything that would indicate Mr. Bolito had any technology during the tournament?
No, I found no evidence that Mr. Bolito had any technology.
Let's move on to your third opinion. Your review of Mr. Bolito's tip to Robert Little, the dealer. How would you describe that tip?
Well, I would describe the tip as unusually large, but when players win, they can be extremely generous.
In your expert opinion, what, if anything, did you find that would indicate Mr. Bolito and Robert Little communicated before or after the bet?
I found no evidence of communication between the two before or after.
In your review of the evidence, what, if anything, did you find that would indicate Mr. Bolito and Robert Little had a potential relationship?
I found no evidence that the two had a relationship.
Finally, in your expert opinion, What did Mr. Bolito's tip to Robert Little indicate?
It indicated nothing. It doesn't make sense in my professional opinion that the two would risk their reputations on a scheme when there was no relationship. There was no evidence.
Based on your experience in the poker community, what is Mr. Bolito's reputation for honesty?
This is the first time I've ever heard of Mr. Bolito being accused of cheating. And in my professional opinion, he's no cheater.
After reviewing all of the evidence and comparing it to the recognized hallmarks of cheating, what did you conclude?
I concluded that Mr. Bolito did not cheat in the bout of 2024.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Ms. Bryant, Ross. I'm sorry, Ms. Robinson.
Good afternoon, Ms. Pascarello. You were hired and retained by the defendant and his legal team to review the belt 2024.
I was.
You weren't present at the belt though, were you?
No, I was not.
You relied and reviewed solely on the exhibits 1 through 13 to make your conclusions?
I did.
And this included Lee Bowles' expert report.
It did.
And you'd agree with a lot of things Lee Bowles believes as it relates to the belt 2024?
I do.
Let's talk about a few things that you'd agree with Ms. Bowles on. Now, you'd agree with Ms. Bowles that the defendant's style of gameplay while the marked deck was in use was odd.
Yes, it was unusual, especially for someone who knew the cards were marked, which is why I concluded that he didn't know.
You'd say a marked deck indicates cheating.
Yes, probably. Probably is not always, but probably.
You've never seen a marked deck in a game without cheating.
That is correct.
You are aware the defendant negotiated to have Robert Little deal for the belt 2024.
Yes, I was aware, and that's what the Premier Casino agreed on.
You are aware that the defendant negotiated to have Robert Little provide setup for the game.
Yes, that was agreed on by the casino as well.
And a part of this setup was the marked deck, isn't that right?
That is correct.
And while the marked deck was in use, the defendant focused on targeting players to his immediate right and left.
That is the way it turned out.
And this was unusual to you, even though you weren't even at the belt to witness it.
Nope, my job is to review all the evidence, make my opinion, and I did think it was unusual.
You've never seen a professional player play this way.
No, I haven't, but AJ Bolito is a special player.
It's your opinion that it was just random chance he played this way while the marked deck was in use?
Yes.
Let's move on and talk about another thing you'd agree with Lee Bowles on. You'd agree with Lee Bowles that headphones present a great risk of cheating.
Yeah,
Earlier, you testified to what you have called our hallmarks for cheating with technology.
I did.
Headphones can be one of those hallmarks.
They can be, and they were not present.
You're right, they weren't present. But you were aware the defendant negotiated to wear headphones during the belt 2024?
He did, he asked for them, but he didn't get them.
That's right. Ms. Bowles prohibited them. Yet you considered this when you were making your expert opinion?
I did consider that, yes.
Yet you didn't list it in your report, did you?
No, I listed that there was no evidence of technology, and there was no evidence of technology at the belt 2024.
Also agree with Lee Bowles that high-tech devices can be used to cheat.
Yes.
And another one of your hallmarks for cheating with technology is just generally odd behavior.
Yes, the devices that vibrate are unusual or odd behavior, but yes.
For example, like someone touching their glasses unnecessarily or strangely.
That could be odd behavior, yes.
You are aware the defendant wore glasses during the belt 2024?
Yes, in my review of the evidence, it appeared he'd lost his contacts, and so he was wearing glasses.
You were aware that the defendant had never worn glasses in a professional tournament?
Correct.
And that the defendant was reportedly touching his glasses throughout the game, especially before big blinds?
Yes, when I was reviewing the evidence, it also appeared that he gets migraines, so, that's,
Is that a yes? You
yes.
And you considered this fact when you were making your expert opinion?
I did.
Yet you didn't list anything about the glasses in your report, did you?
No, I did not.
Now, you were also aware the defendant had a friend in the audience.
Yes, through reviewing the evidence, I was aware of that.
Jason Goss, his protege,
Yes,
where he could see the players' private cards.
Yes,
where he was on his phone the entire game, even though phones were prohibited?
yes, but he wasn't a player, so that's why I didn't put it in my report.
You considered this though, and you didn't mention Jason Goss at all being on his phone?
No, I was not here to investigate Jason Goss.
Let's move on. You would also agree with Lee Bowles that the tip to Robert Little was considerably large.
Yes,
He tipped the dealer in 2 installments.
yes,
Once at the casino in front of everybody,
yes,
once in private with a private wire to Mr. Little's personal bank account.
yes, his accountant had actually gotten that information from Rosenblatt.
You've never heard of a professional player wiring money to a dealer after that.
No, I haven't.
And this tip was $800,000 in total.
Yes, it was.
More than 5% of the defendant's winnings.
Yep, 5.3, I think, yeah.
The largest tip you've ever heard of.
Yes, and it was the largest winning that Mr. Bolito had ever had.
And finally, you would also agree with Peebles that the probabilities of the final 3 hands being dealt were less than 1 in 222 trillion.
Yeah, really crazy probability, but that's what happened.
You verified this yourself with the gold standard of poker software.
I did.
So, just to clarify this for myself, but also for the jury. You and Lee Bowles, you agree on several things as it relates to the belt 2024.
Yes.
Yet, you came to 2 different opinions.
Yes,
You've known the defendant for quite a while, though, haven't you?
I have. We're good friends.
For 20 years.
Yes,
Your families vacation together every single year in Philadelphia.
they did.
So Lee Bowles' opinion that the defendant likely cheated, correct?
Yes.
And you're of the opinion that the defendant is just not a cheater.
I came to more than just one conclusion that he's just not a cheater, but yes,
And you're being paid $12,000 for that opinion?
that's correct. This is my job.
Thank you, Ms. Pascarello. No, Your Honor, no further questions.
Can you read the rest?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Pascarello, you were just asked about your compensation in this case. How much were you compensated?
So it was $800 an hour, and I put in 15 hours of work.
Is your compensation in any way influenced by the outcome of this case?
No, it's not.
You were also asked about your relationship with Mr. Bolito. How would you describe that relationship?
As good friends.
How, if at all, has your friendship with Mr. Bolito affected your opinion in this case?
It hasn't affected it at all. My job is to help casinos prevent and detect poker cheating, and I wouldn't place my credibility on the line.
Finally, in your expert opinion, how common is poker cheating?
While it gets a lot of publicity, poker cheating is actually extremely rare.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Witness may step down. And defense may call their next witness.
Your Honor, defense calls AJ Bolito to stand.
Mr. Bolito, if you raise your right hand, please, do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be seated.
Good afternoon. Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is AJ Bolito.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a professional poker player.
How did you get into that line of work?
Well, I made the wise decision of dropping out of college at the age of 19 to pursue my goal of being a poker pro.
What age were you when you won your first big tournament?
I was 21 when I won the World Series of Poker, becoming the youngest ever.
Would you consider yourself successful in your career?
Yes, I've won over 100 events and have been ranked the #1 player in the world.
What do you attribute your success to?
Reading people and calculating the odds instantly.
What do you mean when you say you read people?
I can identify one's visible tells. They help me to win.
What are examples of visible tells?
Well, one's breathing, fidgeting, sweating, those kinds of things.
How do these tells help you win a round?
Well, for instance, they can help me identify when someone's tilting. That means they're acting on emotion rather than logic.
Mr. Bolito, let's shift to discussing how you came to be in the belt in 2024. Had you competed in the belt previously?
No, this was my first year playing in the belt.
What made you decide to play for the first time in 2024?
Well, Premier Casino wouldn't take no for an answer. They convinced me to play.
How did they convince you to play?
I exchanged a series of emails with Premier Casino's gaming director, Lee Bowles.
If you saw a copy of this email exchange between you and Lee Bowles, would you recognize it?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, at this time, I would direct the court and opposing counsel's attention to what has already been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 1. I'm showing it to opposing counsel. Would Your Honor like another copy?
No, thank you.
This will be on page 10, Your Honor. May I approach the witness? I just handed you Exhibit 1. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do. These are the emails between myself and Miss Bowles.
Can you please read aloud for the jury the conditions you mentioned in your reply to Lee Bowles?
Yeah, I requested to have no cameras. I wanted Robert Little to deal, provide the setup and chips. I requested headphones, and then I also wanted the entry fee to be doubled to $2 million apiece.
Which of those conditions were agreed to by Lee Bowles?
They did allow Robert to deal, as well as provide the setup, and then they did double the entry fee to $2 million.
Let's go through your reasons for your requests. Why did you want no cameras?
Well, I was already paying $2 million to be in the belt. I didn't want Premier Casino to profit any more off of my appearance.
Why did you want headphones to be allowed?
Headphones help me reduce my micro expressions. They're like those visible tells I was talking about earlier. They help me to limit those.
What are the rules, if any, around the allowance of headphones in poker competitions?
Well, generally they're not allowed, like in public games. However, this was a private event, so I thought there may have been an exception.
Were you concerned that the allowance of headphones would allow the other players to cheat?
No, these were the 10 best poker players in the world. I didn't expect anyone that would want to cheat.
Why did you want Robert Little to serve as dealer?
I believed Robert Little to be fair.
What was your relationship, if any, with Robert Little prior to the belt?
Practically non-existent. I don't think we've ever had a private conversation. I don't have his phone number. Nothing.
Mr. Bolito, let's now talk about how you ultimately won Belt 2024. Starting with the table. Was the belt poker table a standard size?
Yes, it was a regulation poker table.
How were the seats at this poker table determined?
We were dealt cards to determine our seating arrangement.
If you saw a copy of this seating chart from Belt 2024, would you recognize it?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would direct the court and opposing counsel's attention to what has already been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 3. I'm showing to opposing counsel. This will be on page 12, Your Honor. Publishing to the jury. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I've just handed you Exhibit 3. Do you recognize it?
Yes, this is the seating arrangement for the belt 2024.
Let's direct your attention to the players seated at the table. During the first 4 hours, you eliminated 4 players. Can you please point out for the jury which 2 players you eliminated first?
So you can see that I'm sitting right over here. The first 2 players that I eliminated were Towers and Shot. They were newcomers to the game and their inexperience showed, so I was able to take them out with relative ease.
Which were the next 2 players you eliminated?
The next 2 were Roberts and Weems. They weren't used to being challenged. They both folded at the first sign of aggression.
Were you aware you were playing to the players to your immediate left and right?
No, at the time I didn't realize it.
What else contributed to your ability to eliminate these players?
Well, admittedly, when you're sitting closer to certain players, it's easier to identify those visible tells.
Mr. Bolito, what happened at 10 p.m.?
Someone noticed damage to one of the cards, so we switched out the card deck.
Why did the deck need to be switched out?
Well, because a damaged card is a marked card, and so when a marked card is in play, you have to switch them out.
Other than the damage, was there another way the cards were marked?
Yes, I later discovered that they were marked with their suit printed on the back of them.
If you saw a card from this marked deck, would you recognize it?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, at this time, I would direct the court and opposing counsel's attention to has already been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 4. Would Your Honor like to inspect?
No,
May I approach the witness?
you may.
I've just handed you Exhibit 4. Do you recognize it?
Yes, this is one of the marked cards from the marked deck that was in play.
Can you please point out for the jury the way in which this card is marked?
Yes, so I guess y'all looked at it earlier, but it has its value in suit printed in the bottom right corner. This secret marking identifies what is on the face of the card.
When did you find out that a marked deck was being used in play?
Not until my deposition at the beginning of this year.
How do you feel about a marked deck being used in play?
I mean, it's very concerning, especially for the belt. A marked deck or marked card should never be in any poker tournament.
So after the first 4 hours, there was no longer a marked deck in play. Who is the last player you eliminated?
Jamie Rosenblatt is the last player that I eliminated.
What were you able to tell from Mr. Rosenblatt on the last 2 hands?
I could tell that she was beginning to tilt. She was exhibiting visible tells. She was acting on emotion rather than logic.
How did you know she was tilting?
I could see that she was sweating. The veins at her neck were popping out. She was tilting.
How did you approach this tilting?
Well, I gave Miss Rosenblatt the opportunity to make a mistake. She went all in. I called, and that's when I won.
Now, Mr. Bolito, it's being alleged you used your glasses to manipulate the game. Let's discuss your eyesight briefly. How would you describe it?
Admittedly, it could be better. I usually wear contacts to correct my vision, but on occasion I'll lose a contact and have to wear glasses instead.
What were you wearing to correct your vision the night of Belt 2024?
This was one of those unfortunate circumstances where I did lose a contact, and so I was wearing glasses.
Do you still have these glasses?
No, this particular pair of glasses gave me a raging headache, and so I tossed them as soon as the tournament was over.
Mr. Bolito, when you won Belt 2024, how much did you tip Robert Little?
I tipped him $800,000.
Can you please explain why you felt it was appropriate to tip him that amount?
Well, for starters, I consider myself a very generous tipper. On top of that, the prize for Bell 2024 was $15 million. And so I wanted to tip him in suit.
What is the customary percentage of earnings to tip a dealer?
Usually anywhere from 2 to 5% of winnings.
What was your percentage of earnings that you tipped Robert Little?
5.3, because I'm so generous.
Did you have the information you needed to wire money to Robert Little?
I didn't at the time, but my accountant received that information from Jamie Rosenblatt.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, any cross?
Mr. Bolito, prior to 2024, you never played in the belt tournament, right?
That's correct. This was my first time playing.
In fact, you refused to play in the belt.
Correct.
Yet, you played in 100 events,
Yes.
and you never had an interest in playing in the world's most exclusive poker tournament.
Well, that is correct. There's other events around the same time that the belt is. I prefer to focus on those in the past.
You weren't interested until you could set some ground, right?
Lead bowls let me make a few requests, correct?
You made 4 requests.
Yes.
In the belt 2024, you picked the dealer.
Yes, I did.
You requested no cameras.
I did request that.
However, you wanted headphones,
Yes.
despite the fact that you knew headphones were banned in every major competition.
Yes, all public events.
Now, after these conditions were negotiated, you agreed to play in the belt.
Yes, I still played.
And you expected to win, didn't you?
I was ranked #1 in the world at the time, so yes, I expected to win.
Which is why you wanted the entry fee doubled to 2 million apiece.
Yes, yes, I did.
Now let's talk more about these conditions, starting with the dealer. There are hundreds of dealers in the poker world, aren't there?
Yes, I'm sure plenty.
And you could have picked any one of them,
I could have.
but you picked Robert Little,
Yes,
who you played your last 3 tournaments with.
and won. I felt like he was lucky.
Right, you won your last 3 tournaments with Robert Little as the dealer.
Yes,
And in the belt 2024, you wanted Robert Little to provide the setup,
yes, I requested that.
the chips,
Yes,
the dealer button,
correct.
the cards.
Yes, all the setup.
You wanted him to provide this setup to keep things fair, right?
Yes, that was Robert Little's reputation as a fair dealer.
The setup that included the marked cards.
Yes,
Now, at some point in the night, there was a problem with the setup, wasn't there?
yes, there was.
A player noticed their card was damaged.
That's correct.
Let's talk more about that damaged card. When Palk noticed her card was damaged, you wanted to keep playing.
I didn't notice the damage to the card.
Right, you said, the card looks fine from where I'm sitting, let's keep playing.
Yeah, that's correct.
However, you didn't wait for Lee Bowles to come in and examine the card, did you?
Not when I said it. However, Lee Bowles did come in, and when she asked if anyone objected to switching decks, I didn't object to that.
Right, but you said let's keep playing before Lee Bowles could even examine the card.
Sure.
Now, after Lee Bowles switched the deck, I want to talk more about those marked cards, okay? You just testified about this seating chart,
Yes.
and you testified that the table was regulation size,
Yes, that's correct.
meaning it was 20 feet in circumference.
If you say so, counselor, yes.
And you sat equally apart from your opponents.
Yes.
So you sat 2 feet away from Scott and Powers.
I think that's right, yes.
And you testified that when you know what you're looking for, you can read marked cards from 3 to 4 feet away.
I suppose. I don't know if I've testified to that yet, but yes, that's true.
Those are your words from your deposition, Mr. Belito.
Yes.
You sat 2 feet away when you knocked out Scott and Powers. And then the chairs had to change.
Correct.
And you sat equally apart from your next 2 opponents.
Yes, Roberts and Weems.
And you were accused of only playing against those to your immediate left and right.
That is what they're saying.
So you moved on and you knocked out Robert and Weems.
Yes, I did.
And you also just testified that when you sit closer, you can read the tells of players.
Yes, you can.
But you've also stated in your deposition that none of these players had any visible tells.
None that I could articulate at the time.
Now, after that card was damaged and the premier deck was brought in, you abandoned that style of gameplay, didn't you, Mr. Belito?
I suppose my style of play switched after the break, yes.
You no longer played against those to your immediate left and right.
No, I suppose I didn't.
In fact, you started to lose.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Belito, I want to talk about another one of your demands. Your demands for headphones was denied, wasn't it?
That is correct.
But you were wearing glasses
Yes, to correct my vision.
because you lost a contact that morning.
Yes, counselor.
And you were just lucky enough to have your glasses in your bag and have them packed, right?
Right, I always bring a backup.
But these glasses, they gave you a headache.
They did, so I threw them out afterwards.
Right, you immediately threw out your glasses. Yet you still didn't have contacts at that time, correct?
I mean, I was able to get some after the tournament.
Right, but when you threw those glasses out, you didn't have contacts, did you?
No, and I wasn't worried about that.
You had no corrective lenses at all, did you, Mr. Polito?
No, but I wasn't driving after. My friend Jason Goss was there. He was driving me back home.
Talk more about Jason Goss. Now, in your deposition, you were under oath, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And you testified that you didn't know anyone in the audience.
I did say that at the time. I forgot my friend was there.
Right, that wasn't true.
I'm sorry.
That wasn't true, the fact that you didn't know anyone in the audience, right?
Correct. I misspoke.
Jason Goss was standing in the audience the whole tournament, wasn't he?
Yes, he was there,
And he's your friend?
as well as my protege.
Right, you train him
Yes, I do.
free of charge.
Yes.
And like you just said, he drove you to and from the tournament that day.
Yes, he did.
You exchanged text messages that morning,
Yes, we did.
yet you seemingly forgot he was there.
Yes, I was a little focused on the tournament at hand.
But in your deposition, Mr. Belito, you forgot that Jason Goss was at the tournament.
Oh, well, yes, my deposition was much after the tournament.
Yet today, you still remember the seating chart from the belt tournament a year ago.
Yes, I was shown it.
But you remembered the seating chart. You testified that you recognized it and everything.
Oh, yes.
Now, Mr. Belito, we all know you won the belt 2024 tournament. I want to talk about what happened right after you won. You gave Robert Little a hefty tip.
I did.
You gave him $50,000,
Yes.
but that wasn't the only tip you gave him.
No, I followed up.
Right. You privately wired him $750,000.
Yes, I did.
I just want to get this straight. You sent the dealer you picked even more money the day after the tournament as a thank you.
Yes, I was very generous. I'm thankful for his services as our dealer.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Belito, you were just questioned about Jason Goss. Who is Jason Goss?
Jason Goss is my friend as well as my protege.
During the belt, did you receive any signals from Jason Goss?
No. No signals from Jason Goss.
During the belt, did you receive any communication from Jason Goss?
None whatsoever. He was just there to watch the tournament, take me to it, and take me home.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Witness may step down. Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor, at this time, the defense rests and we would request a 5-minute recess.
Right, and we will be in recess for 5 minutes and then we will begin with closings. I'll remind the jury, no having fun, no discussing the case, no talking, no nothing. 5 minutes. And the court will be in recess.
You can just go out, you just press this.
Done.
Sorry, I have too much on it. This is, I'm gonna shine a little on it. Not to keep it very, it's been very. So, wow. Yeah. But I didn't know make it. And she asked me. That's why. First start teaching. I left it. Yeah, it's never relaxed. They don't have it far. When they take the bar, they don't have it in county, so. Areas that was so interesting. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. And I love it.
Contract. Wait, look at it. You can part of Charleston. She looks at some. It's now counselor down. It's probably talking about our own law.
But what was her name? I had to do it. And then.
Yeah. You're ready. I think we are. How about you, Mark? Thanks for the colleagues around. It's just a reason for you. I'm like, hey, you get a problem, you need to like. I'll take it on change. You start a company on
Spryer, are you ready? Yeah. Are y'all ready?
Just considering the time, so their closing statements should be like between 10 and 12 minutes. You're gonna have to probably like 40 or so get done. Do you want to go ahead and leave these after their closing arguments, or do you want to?
Yeah, let me take comments. Are y'all gonna deliberate?
There's yours from them, and I'll go in the back and tell them.
I'll give my comments and see if they. And then when you come back.
Okay, and I'll get you on your sure you do. Oh, perfect.
Okay, we are back from recess, and I understand there are no pending motions, so we will begin closing argument. Ms. Fry, you may begin.
May it please the court. Your Honor. Closing counsel and members of the jury. $15 million. More money than most people will ever see in their lives. It's the type of money that you could build a house with, pay off debt, build a future. That is money that defendant AJ Bolito stole from Premier Casino.
It's the final hand. And Jamie Rosenblatt and AJ Bolito sit at the table. Jamie, he's calm, confident, reading the hands like he has done 1,000 times before. But AJ, he's not nervous. I mean, why would he be? He already knew the ending of the game. How? He handpicked the dealer, his friend, his accomplice, his insurance, Robert Little. Now AJ's sitting at that table and he is staring down his fate. He is down $17.3 million. And he's not even breaking his sweat. He's not panicked. He doesn't even blink. Why? You don't fear the odds when you rig the game. And hand after hand, AJ Bolito defied mathematics. He beat odds of 1 in 222 trillion. And yet, not a flicker of surprise crossed his face. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not luck. And that's not fate. That's fraud. AJ Bolito, he didn't win the tournament. He engineered it. From the dealer he picked, to the marked cards, to the wiring of money after the fact. This wasn't a poker tournament at all. It was a performance. A con disguised as a card game. My name is Molly Fry, and my co-counsel, Reed Robinson, and I have had the pleasure of representing plaintiff Premier Casino. Now, we have the burden of proof today, and the defense is going to tell you that our burden is this big. But that's not true. All we had to do was prove that it is more likely than not that AJ Bolito committed gambling fraud. And the law required us to prove 3 elements. First, that AJ Bolito committed a fraudulent act. Second, that fraudulent act occurred during a gambling game. And third, that Premier Casino suffered a harm. Now let's start with that second undisputed element. The Bell Tournament is a poker tournament. And by definition, a poker tournament is a gambling game. So we have easily met our burden on that point. Now let's talk about that third element, that Premier Casino suffered a harm. Premier Casino suffered a harm when they were forced to pay AJ Bolito $15 million. But that's not the only harm Premier Casino suffered. You heard testimony from Lee Bowles himself that the Bell will lose tens of millions of dollars from this very cheating scandal. But you heard that she had to go through with this trial in order to protect the integrity of the Bell and Premier Casino. So that leaves just that first element, that AJ Bolito committed a fraudulent act. And we have proved to you that AJ Bolito manipulated the Bell tournament with the intention to cheat. We have shown you the deal, we have shown you the game, and we have shown you the aftermath. But let's take that one by one. Starting with the deal. The email chain between Lee Bowles and AJ Bolito. Now it's true, Lee Bowles really wanted AJ Bolito out of the tournament. At the time, he was the #1 ranked player in the world. But AJ Bolito demanded 4 things. First, he wanted no cameras. He didn't want anyone seeing his unusual style of gameplay or how he was fidgeting with his glasses. Second, he wanted headphones. Despite the fact that he knew headphones are banned in every major competition. Third, he wanted the entry fee doubled to $2 million apiece because he expected to win. And fourth, he wanted Robert Little to deal and provide the setup. He wanted the dealer he has won his now last 4 tournaments with. A dealer he trusted. He wanted a dealer who would provide marked cards. And this deal, this email chain, is when AJ Bolito put his plan to cheat in motion. Which takes me to that second point, the game. You've heard from every witness today about AJ Bolito's unusual style of gameplay. How he was only playing against those immediately to his left and right. And we showed you this seating chart. And we explained how AJ Bolito sat 2 feet away when he knocked out Scott and Powers, and 2.5 feet away when he knocked out Robert and Weems. Now, AJ said himself that he could get them out because he could read them. But he also testified that they didn't actually have any visible tells. AJ Bolito also testified that he could read marked cards from 3 to 4 feet away. And that's how we know he was using marked cards to cheat. He sat 2 to 2.5 feet away from his opponents and read their marked cards. And then when those cards were switched for Premier branded cards, he had to rely on the backup. He still wasn't nervous though. And now the defense, they want you to think that AJ won with Premier branded cards, so he couldn't have been reading marked cards. But that's not true. When that Premier cards were in play, AJ completely got rid of the playing against players to his left and right. He stopped being able to read marked cards, so he relied on Robert Little. And you've heard testimony today from Jamie Rosenblatt about Robert Little's ability to trick you. How he could hand any player any card without even batting an eye. Yes, AJ Bolito won with Premier branded cards, but AJ Bolito won by trick dealing. He was down $17.3 million. He was 3 hands away from elimination. And yet, he got the luckiest hands of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't get that type of luck 3 hands in a row. You get that type of luck when you bribe the dealer for favorable cards. And that takes me to my final point, the aftermath. AJ Bolito gave Robert Little a $50,000 tip at the conclusion of the belt tournament. And that alone was already the largest tip AJ Bolito has ever given. Now he says it's because the prize was $15 million, but let's not forget, the prize was $15 million because he said it that way. But that wasn't the only tip AJ Bolito gave. He privately wired $750,000 to Robert Little the very next day. That wasn't a tip. That was a bribe. And the defense talked about how people only really looked into AJ Bolito, how they only subpoenaed him and no one else. They only subpoenaed him because he wasn't willing to give over his phone. He wasn't willing for anyone to see that private wire. It wasn't meant for the public. It was meant to stay private as a bribe. You also heard the defense tell you today how it's customary to tip 2 to 5%. But that's not true. You heard from our expert how it's customary in a high-stakes poker game like the belt to tip 1% of your winnings. 1% is $150,000, not $800,000. You also heard from the defense's own expert how she's never seen a tip that large, or she's never seen a person tip in 2 installments. You've also heard from the expert how she agreed with everything Legal said. The only difference is she vacations with AJ Bolito every September. Ladies and gentlemen, they want you to believe that this is strategy, experience, mastery. This is cheating, theft, fraud. And we ask that you hold AJ Bolito accountable and protect Premier Casino's integrity. We ask that you find defendant AJ Bolito liable of gambling fraud.
Ms. Ellis.
May it please the court, Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. Mastery and experience built his success. Poker isn't just a game AJ Bolito plays. It's what he's mastered. The way a pianist masters a piano or a chef masters a recipe. Every move, every read, every calculation is second nature to him because he's devoted his life to it. Mr. Bolito knows how just 2 cards can change everything. He knows how the culmination of his 35 years of hard work can come down to just 2 cards. The plaintiff, Premier Casino, wants you to believe that after decades of mastery, over 100 tournament wins, and $75 million, he suddenly decided to cheat. Why would a man who mastered the game ever break its rules? He wouldn't, he didn't. For 35 years, Mr. Bolito has built his career on one thing: skill. Not marked cards, not signals, not bribes, skill. The kind that comes from discipline and studying every detail of the game. The plaintiff carried the burden of proof in this case. It was their job and their job alone to prove that their claim was more likely true than not. To prove their claim, they must have shown that the defendant committed a fraudulent act in connection with a gambling game that resulted in harm to the plaintiff. That fraudulent act would mean that Mr. Bolito had to manipulate the game to cheat. We, the defense, didn't have to prove anything. We just had to show that Mr. Bolito, that the plaintiff did not prove their case. And today, the plaintiff did not meet their burden because Mr. Bolito didn't manipulate the game to cheat. During opening statements, my co-counsel mentioned that the evidence would show 3 things. First, Mr. Bolito didn't know marked cards were being used. Second, Mr. Bolito didn't receive signals. Third, Mr. Bolito didn't bribe anyone. And today, the evidence you heard showed all 3. Let's take those one at a time. First, Mr. Bolito didn't know marked cards were being used. The plaintiff wants you to believe that during the tournament, Mr. Bolito could spot a secret marking from 3 to 4 feet away. Yet the evidence showed there is no evidence he knew to look for them. Mr. Bolito chose to take the stand today, even though he didn't have to. When he testified, he was required to tell the truth. And today he told you he didn't know marked cards were in play during the tournament. He didn't find out until a year after the tournament that marked cards were used. He made it clear that marked cards should never be used in poker. The plaintiff has another theory. The fact that Mr. Bolito played against the players to his immediate left and right is some sort of proof that he cheated. But let's take a look at the seating chart that we saw earlier. The first 2 players Mr. Bolito eliminated were Powers and Scott, who, as he said, their inexperience showed. The plaintiff's own expert witness, Miss Bowles, told you that she figured Mr. Belito was just taking on new players. They were first-time belt players. The next two players Mr. Belito eliminated were Roberts and Weaves, who, as he said, folded at the first sign of aggression. Mr. Belito didn't read cards. He read his opponents and outplayed their inexperience. Mr. Belito is the youngest to ever win the World Series of Poker. He was an 11-time World Series champion and the #1 poker player in the world. He did what any seasoned professional would do. He relied on his 35 years of experience to win the tournament. Today, the plaintiff has spent a lot of time talking about marked cards. But the evidence showed, as they mentioned, Mr. Belito won using Premier Casino unmarked cards. Mr. Belito doesn't read cards. He reads people. Second, Mr. Belito didn't receive signals. Yes, he was wearing glasses the day of the tournament, and you know exactly why. He lost his contact lens earlier that afternoon. He needed his glasses to see. You heard from our expert witness, Jess Pasquarella. She's an expert in prevention and detection of poker cheating. She told you the recognized hallmarks of cheating with poker are earpieces, vibrations, devices. And you know, there is no evidence Mr. Belito had any technology during the tournament. Ms. Bowles told you she conducted an investigation on the belt 2024. That investigation included conclusions on Mr. Belito's glasses. Yeah, she told you. She didn't examine those glasses. There's no evidence Mr. Belito used those glasses for anything else other than his eyesight. Third, Mr. Belito didn't provide anything. You heard Mr. Belito. He has no personal relationship with the dealer, Robert Little. He has no private conversations, no phone number, no contact, no bank account information at all. Mr. Belito tipped Robert Little a total of $800,000. I know. It might seem substantial, but remember, it's only 5.3% of Mr. Belito's total winnings. He told you he's known for being a generous tipper, and this was the largest prize he had ever seen. So it was appropriate to tip the largest tip he had ever tipped. Ms. Bowles mentioned that tipping between 2 to 5% is customary in a low stakes tournament. But it is customary to tip between 2 to 5%. And that's exactly what Mr. Belito tipped. Members of the jury, we're not denying that something unusual may have happened in that tournament. Today, the plaintiff had to prove that Mr. Belito was the one who committed a fraudulent act. But there are no messages, no devices, no personal connections that directly tie Mr. Belito to any wrongdoing. Instead, you heard from second place winner, Jamie Rosenblatt, who won $5 million. Mr. Rosenblatt does have a personal relationship with the dealer, Robert Little. They play golf together every month. He had his bank account information and even roomed with him in Vegas. Mr. Rosenblatt told you that he knew weeks before the tournament even started that his good friend, Robert Little, would be the dealer of the tournament. Yet, the casino didn't focus on him. They didn't focus on anyone else. Members of the jury, fairness doesn't mean erasing someone's hard work and calling it fraud. Fairness means everyone is investigated the same, treated the same, and held to the same standard. That didn't happen here. Premier Casino only investigated Mr. Bolito. For 35 years, Mr. Bolito has dedicated his life to mastering poker. He has built a career, a reputation, and a legacy through skill, not fraud. The plaintiff's case is based on assumptions and guesswork, trying to connect dots that aren't there. So today, members of the jury, we ask that you find Mr. AJ Bolito not liable for gambling fraud because mastery and experience built his success. Thank you.
And you vote.
Members of the jury, the defense just stood in front of you for 10 minutes. And they discussed how AJ Bolito was under oath today when he told you that he wasn't reading marked cards. But I want to remind you, he was also under oath in his deposition when he lied. He lied about his friend Jason Goss. And the defense also told you how Lebos didn't examine the glasses. The glasses that he was getting signals from. The glasses that Jason Goss would text while he was on the phone during the tournament and would signal to his glasses. Now it's true. We didn't examine those glasses. Why? Bolito threw them out. He threw out glasses before getting contacts, so no one could examine them. AJ Bolito didn't want anyone getting his hands on those glasses. Now the defense, they want to try to confuse you and tell you mastery and experience is what AJ Bolito used to win the belt tournament. But don't let them confuse you. Mastery did not win this. Marked cards did. Experience did not win this. A trick dealer did. And skill did not win this. Fraud did. So we ask that you find the defendant, AJ Bolito, liable of gambling fraud. Thank you.
All right, thank you, counselors. At this point, the jury, I'm charging you, you know the law, and I'm going to give you some time for you all to deliberate. While you're doing that, I'll provide some comments to the attorneys. Do they need to fill out their scores?
They'll fill it out once they get it.
Okay,
But yeah,
so I'm gonna start and then once they fill out the score sheet that I think some of the members in the jury box may want comments as well. So first of all, this is, I realize not a very helpful comment, but you all did a fabulous job. Your voices projected very well. You were very clear. Your arguments or points were very easy to follow, which you would be surprised how many times I see jurors who are confused. They're not following what's going on. So I think everyone did a good job of laying out and repeating what it was that you were trying to prove. Absolutely fantastic. One thing, Ms. Keys, that I did note particularly, you did a really good job on your cross-examination, looking at the jury, So it was almost as if you were having a conversation with, if you were having a conversation with the witness and the jury. And so you're including and inviting the jury in what you're doing. I thought you did that really well. Ms. Robinson, you did a superb job on going through your expert plea bowls and walking through. See if I can fix it that way. Walking through the points and what her opinion was and reinforcing to the jury. I thought you did a really good job with that. Ms. Salas, you did a fantastic job on redirect of your expert and the relationship with the defendant. I thought that was a great way for you to end because it was a strong point for the plaintiff to make. So great job redirecting and addressing that issue head on. Ms. Fry, you, two things in particular I noted. You did a good job pointing out some inconsistencies with Mr. Bolito's testimony versus his deposition testimony, which you then used really nicely in your closing, but that was a great, you did it really nicely while he was on the stand. And I just noted that your rebuttal in closing was spot on. And it was short, you hit the highlights, and you concluded very strong. I thought that was very effective, the way you took the 3 points that the defendant had made about skill and countered with the very points that you were making. So, and that's the way you want to close, very strong, did a really good job there. A couple of things generally, and I'm doing it up here, talking with my hands. A lot of you used your hands a lot when you're talking to the jury. It doesn't bother me so much because I talk with my hands. Be mindful of it because I think you lose some of the points you may be trying to make, and maybe reserve some of the hand movements for emphasis, or if you're counting. But a lot of times I hear from jurors that they find it distracting. So I just flag that to be mindful of it. But having said that, you also need to be true to yourself. And if it's difficult, again, I'm up here using my hands. Maybe you can't see them so much because I've got a goal here. You need to do what works for you. So, but I just flag, be a little mindful of that. So I did have a strategy question. Ms. Keys, why didn't you object to the testimony about Mr. Little knowing how to trick the deal?
Originally, Your Honor, that was going to be part of our theory, was that Rosenblatt knew about the trick dealing.
Okay.
I think I was waiting to see, one of the exhibits we did not bring in today was a video of Robert Little trick dealing. I was waiting to see if she was gonna try to elicit facts from the video, and then I would have objected to that.
Okay.
So I think it was more so me waiting, and that testimony didn't come.
Okay. So I probably would have kept the video out on hearsay grounds, because conduct can be hearsay. It doesn't have to just be words. So probably, now it depends on what you all would have argued, but knowing that it existed, I probably would have kept it out. And I think one of the biggest challenges for the defense, I think you can make some hay with the marked cards and what Rosenblatt knew and didn't know. I think one of the biggest challenges for the defense ultimately is the tip that was paid to Little. And so then it sort of leaves a hole. Does Little know how to trick deal? And I might have kept that out under character evidence. Maybe not, depending on what plaintiffs argued, but I was a little surprised that you didn't object on that. And again, that's just based on my limited understanding. There's strategy reasons behind everything we do. But I'll give you an example. I think all of you at some point asked leading questions. And what I find sometimes is attorneys allow it for the sake of moving testimony along. But I have also seen attorneys effectively use an objection because you can't lead your witness. And it really hamstrings. So for example, let's just say the plaintiff counsel was leading and you stand up and object. It throws counsel off their game sometimes, because I actually think direct examinations are hard. Because the witness gets nervous and you've got to figure out how to get the testimony from your witness that you want without testifying for your witness. And you will have that happen over your careers. Your witness will be on the stand and completely forget why they're up there and what it is you want from them. And it can prove pretty challenging. So don't, I appreciate not objecting on the basis of leading questions for the sake of moving things along, but don't forget, you make the other side get the testimony from the witness and not have counsel give it. There was another. So, Ms. Robinson, why didn't you object to the characterization of little as ethical?
Of little as ethical,
Mhm.
honestly, Your Honor, I may not have caught it, but
There was some testimony about little being ethical. I realize it gets undercut by the March deck. And then there was some testimony about Polito not being a cheater. And I might have kept that out on character evidence also. It was short. And so I thought perhaps you weren't worried about it, given all the other evidence that you had. But just know, had you made an objection, I may well have sustained it on those grounds. Now, the other thing you run the risk of is if you make the objection, whether I sustain it or overrule it, you just emphasize that point for the jury again. So sometimes, again, it's a strategy call that you decide not to make the objection. So there's a lot going on during the middle of a trial. These were just some things that I had going on in my head and was curious in terms of the decision making in the process. Let's see. One thing, Ms. Salas, one other thing, when Lee Bowles was on the stand, there was a question, a point I think that you were trying to make about Mr. Polito not reacting or not objecting to the new guards. And Bowles said, well, he could have been panicking. And I thought that was gratuitous and might have struck it had you asked. But I think it was probably a good idea to leave it alone. And you didn't let it phase you. You moved on to the next thing. And that all of you did a really good job when the witness was offering commentary that I felt like might not have been in the factual packet of things, and none of you let it throw you at all. One thing I was going to say, strategy, Ms. Fry, was a lot of your cross-examination of, was it Polito? I felt like you could have saved some of it for your closing argument because you really were just repeating some things and your closing was so strong. I'm not so sure you needed all of it that you did with Mr. Polito. Now, I don't ever think it's a bad idea to repeat issues for the jury, but I found myself when you were asking some of your questions thinking, save for closing, save for closing, save for closing, because he's going to give you a wishy-washy response and disagree with whatever it is you're saying. And you already had the evidence that you needed to argue to the jury how to interpret it. And you did it really nicely. I think that's it. The jury may have some specific thoughts, and you all did a fabulous job. I just tried to pick one highlight of something that stuck out to me on the really good job side, and then some strategy questions, because that's the other thing. You will always find people to be an armchair quarterback when you're the ones trying the case, and so you're making those strategy calls in the moment, and you have a reason for it at the time, and you can second guess yourself. Don't do it. You made the best decision you can at the time, and y'all did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Can you announce it? Yes, we're gonna do that. So the jury has deliberated and we do have a winner. And we're gonna turn it over to the trial ad board's president, Logan Sudholz, and she's gonna announce the first and second place winner.
I thought her name was Lee.
It was, I changed it back. But thank you all for coming today and spending your Fridays with us. This was amazing. You guys did such a great job, and this is just a fraction of our team. I mean, they all have done such an amazing job. They've dedicated so many hours. But before I announce the winners, I just wanted to say thank you to Judge Cherry. She continues to put up. We really appreciate you.
Fun part of my job.
We also would like to thank our jurors, which is an array of faculty and attorneys. Thank you to the 3L members who have spent so many hours with these teams individually, being mentors to them and providing them guidance. And also thank you to Professor Chapman, who teaches us exactly how to do this. I mean, in a matter of 3 months, you learn how to conduct an entire trial off notes. It's amazing. And if you're thinking about being a part of something like this and learning this and putting this in your skill set, you totally should. It's been a great experience. And again, these are just 2 teams out of our team of 28 advocates that just, you guys are so good. As far as the winner goes, this was exceptionally close. It came down to a split ballot, which means that 3 went in favor of one team, 2 went in favor of another. And what that means is that it was very close and that both sides of advocacy were that strong that it was that tight. So for our runners up, we have Anna E. and Madison. And for our 2 winners, the plaintiff team, Reeves and Molly. I will turn it back over to Professor Chapman and anybody that has any feedback. But thank you again for spending today with us. Thank you to our IT team for capturing this for us.
And so the professionalism series event is over, so if y'all were here for that, you're welcome to go. If the tab board would stick around, we're gonna do some photos before you leave. They Judge Sherry, I know you have to go on social media because I'm not gonna thank them. Jordan.
Congratulations. No question. So wise. Fuck the elephants.
Thank you so much. Great job, that's fair.
You were.
You did great. You guys are really awesome. You guys are really good. That is sort of the. Yeah, you guys. What are you talking about? Good stuff. I said I would.
Thank you.